This is the Guided Podcast, an interview with the fly fishing industry's top guides and brand ambassadors. On this podcast, we cover topics such as the guiding lifestyle, conservation, different fisheries globally, and gear and technology to improve your game. I'm your show host, Greg Keenan. Before we begin today's show, let's thank our sponsors. Scientific Anglers is the leader in producing the world's best fly lines for over 75 years. Scientific Anglers have set new industry standards with their SA Amplitude family of fly lines, both in technology and performance. See the difference for yourself today at scientificanglers.com. Show your show support and follow us on Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. Now let's begin. Welcome to Guided. Today our guest is Matt Mccannel. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. We're excited you're here too. So I know we got lots to talk about. We talked a lot a few times off air here, and just talking about some show stuff and whatnot. So I can't wait to jump into it. I know there's a few cool things. So before we do that, though, for those that don't know who you are, can you tell us a bit about who you are, your guiding operation, where you're guiding from, all that sort of stuff?
You bet, Greg. So, Matt Mccannel. I guide in Colorado out of Riggs Fly Shop in Ridgway, Colorado. It's the only shop I work for. Do trips down the Gunnison Gorge and do sight fishing trips down to Paca, which is the name of the tailwater that's located on the Uncompahgre River. Like 10 minutes away from my house, so that's super nice, special thing to have. Oh, doesn't get any better. That's where I work. It's what I do. I do this year-round, full-time. The Gunnison Gorge is an amazing, beautiful experience down there for people and myself, even though I've been down there for a very long time. However, my real passion is chasing, double-digit fish, having clients sight fish to them. It's very intense. And the thing that I really like about that is it really makes me think. And you really have to be on your game, both for me as a guide and then, as well for my clients. Unfortunately, it's not something that, just everybody can do. Kind of have to be a little more experienced to pull this off, but it's super intense. It's super fun, and it's just something that I'm super passionate about. That's who I am. That's what I do. Like I said, I'm fortunate enough to be able to do this for a career. Very blessed. So, life's good.
Sounds like it. Sounds like you kind of got it all figured out here. So let's touch base about the Gunnison that you do. Are these walk and wade trips, or are they float trips? Again, how are you doing that? And how are you guys targeting there? And what species are you targeting in this river?
On the sight fishing deal, browns and rainbows. The state does stock Snake River cutthroats in there. They don't get that big and more of a nuisance. So browns and rainbows, these are resident fish. So they're in the river all the time, which makes it, they're, not a migratory fish moving up, say, out of a lake or something, which has its own set of challenges. So these fish, know their home turf, their, say, 20 foot by 20 foot house very intimately. And they know if something is wrong or out of place, which makes getting in on these fish, let alone into casting range, getting them to eat without disturbing them is super hard. It's what makes it fun for me. I mean, I have fish right now. Maybe not right now. Flows are up a little bit higher, but definitely once they drop the flows in the winter, or pardon me, in the fall, throughout the entire winter, and then into the spring, we actually I had about 6 fish this winter where we had to take our wading boots off about 100 feet away from them, because if we even bang 2 rocks together, even 60, 70 feet away, they were gone.
Yeah.
And so, literally, it might take us an hour to crawl up or to get into range of these fish. And so it's really hunting.
No doubt. Oh, for sure.
It's more hunting than it is fishing. It's a challenge. Every aspect of it. I love it.
I've heard of guys doing that in like New Zealand and stuff, you know what I mean, for the browns there and whatnot. Just like the small creeks, just going up and boom, trying to cast out and not spook these fish. And I guess you're kind of doing the same, right? What are some of the ways, like what are some of the tactics that you would do to like make sure like you're putting your clients on fish? I mean, you're bringing me out there. We took our wading boots off. You're like, hey man, we got to be quiet here. Like, what you want me to cast, like upstream it this way or that? Like walk me through. Like, how would you successfully try and get me into the zone?
So once we've located a fish, and I'll talk about how I locate fish. We'll save that for another question. Mm-hmm. Some people might know I use a ladder to spot fish, but we'll save that for a little bit here. But once we've located a fish that we're going to target, I remember a few years ago when Sims came out with camo waders and the whole camo suit, the Veil camo suit. I think it was Landon and I. We got the first set. We each got the first ones, and I remember that first time I posted a picture wearing that, and we just caught hell for it. We both did, actually. Yeah. It was great. It was absolutely great. But now it's become an acceptable thing. Whether it works every time or not, I have no idea. I can't say that it works every time, but I'd say stuff like that. Any advantage that I can possibly get on these fish, I'm going to do it. Obviously within, the realm of ethical and all this stuff. But yeah, I'll take any advantage I can get. And so that's a big thing. And I've almost on some of my trips, especially throughout the winter with low, clear water, almost make that almost a prerequisite to have. So it's be as stealthy as you can. I have extra stuff that I give clients, clothing wise, jackets and
that
stuff.
Was a question I was going to ask.
With the proper stuff, because again, hey, it can't hurt. What is it going to hurt? Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing. It's not going to hurt anything wearing this stuff, or so it's. I'll take, like I said, any advantage. And just being super stealthy. And, I tell people all the time, and if you think you're moving too fast, you are. Just slow it down. Be smart. Having your rod pointed downriver away from the fish or wherever to avoid any rod flash or any of that. Just any little thing, covering up watches, covering up wedding rings, maybe taking off wedding rings, anything shiny. Just take every precaution you can is really what we do. And when we do find a fish that we're going to target, sometimes I carry a whiteboard with. So we've come up with a plan and write everything down, draw out diagrams on where the flies need to be.
You're like a hockey player guy, really, you know what I mean? With a coach, with the quarterback.
Exactly.
Here's the play-by-play for fly fishing. I love it, man. That's awesome. So
So it's because you got to have a plan. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
there's the fish, let's go cast. It
It's
doesn't
gone.
work
It's
that way.
gone. Yeah.
And so, and it really helps the clients. And I even super experienced anglers, I have them practice the exact cast that we're going to make to the fish. Obviously not to the fish at that time, but away from the fish, just to get them used to, and this whole process might take up to 2 hours before we even cast to the fish.
Wow.
So it's definitely not a numbers game. But the intense level is just through the roof for me, and I know for my clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, half of my job when we're actually doing this is, I guess, kind of being some kind of psychologist to actually settle people down, because a lot of these fish, we landed one that we've been trying to catch, or I've been trying to catch, for 4 years. This past December, a great client of mine, Mike, landed it December 12th last year. And this fish eluded me from getting him in the net for 4 years. I hooked it once. David Leake from Tailwaters Travel Company hooked it once. Then it disappeared for 2 years. And I saw it on the 12th of December last year with Mike. And the whole process took us, I believe, 6.5 hours.
Wow.
And Mike made 12 casts in 6.5 hours. But we landed that fish, and that fish taped out at 35 inches on the button.
Insane. That's a massive fish.
The most beautiful brown trout I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm. And how rewarding, right? Like, think about that. Like, I guess I take for granted a lot of the fish up here doing still water and stuff when I get like 30, 40 fish days doing chronomet fishing. But like, how rewarding is a 35-inch brown trout that you put 6 hours into with 6 casts? Like that's pretty, like, look at the legwork that went into it. So that's kind of cool for sure.
I'm so happy for Mike that he got it. I mean, it was happy. I mean, I honestly thought the fish was dead. It had died, just, of old age. Because even when I hooked it, and then the following year, David hooked it, it was gigantic back then. And so I figured it was just after I didn't see it anymore for 2 years that it was just gone. Mm-hmm. And then for it to, just appear in the perfect place. However, it wasn't all that perfect. It was just a slicked out, glassy tail out of a run. And there was about 6 feet deep. And I made Mike wait, there was times where I made him wait 15 minutes and times where I made him wait a half an hour in between casts to not only keep the fish calm, more importantly, though, equally as important, to keep him calm. Mm-hmm. Because having a 35-inch brown trout with peck fins as big as your hand, 20 feet away from you, is rather nerve-wracking. And so he did an amazing job, though, putting the fly where it needed to be.
That's just crazy, Matt. That's awesome. You make my heart's racing just thinking of hearing that story. So it's just so funny. I do want to shift here, though. You talked about the ladders and the use of the ladders. And I mean, over the years, ladders have caught a lot of heat and this and that, but you said you use every tool possible to get your clients onto fish. So I'm assuming that ladders are one of those tools.
Right. Much like, when, Sims came out with the camo deal, caught hell for that. But years before, I caught hell for all of a sudden. I believe it was Ross Purnell let the cat out of the bag that I was using ladder and to spot fish. And I've written several articles about it and whatnot. But some people, say, "Oh, that's cheating." Like, well, I don't know, you jump up on a rock to see a little further. What's the difference? I can say that carrying an 8-foot step ladder around the river every day is not a fun thing to do.
I was just going to ask you that.
I mean, carrying it through brush, carrying it just in general on top of, my backpack full of, 25 pounds of camera equipment, and then my fishing pack, a big net.
Yeah.
And an 8-foot step ladder, that's a lot of gear to carry, and a cooler as well, because I pack lunches with, because if we're on a fish, I don't want to leave the fish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a lot of gear, but it keeps me in fairly good shape. So the ladder, I use strictly to spot fish. It's spray painted camo. I've spray painted all sorts of colors, depending on the season. The great thing about it, I can set that thing up 70 feet away from the water's edge. Mm-hmm. And I can see fish, 100 feet away. Obviously, these are, bigger fish, easier to see, compared to, say, even a 20-inch fish, which also is a huge fish. But
yeah, it's a nice fish.
But what it allows me to do, and one thing that I've really learned over the years, it is amazing when people are nymph fishing under an indicator anyway, that we catch anything, because I observe fish eating flies all the time and the indicator never moves. And so the other thing the ladder allows me to do is, yes, spot fish, but it allows me to see when that fish eats the fly. Because again, the indicator, I'd say, moves right when that fish eats the fly. I'd say it moves. It doesn't move about 85% of the time. So, you make 10 casts, probably my math is going to be way off here. I'm a fishing guide, not a math scholar here, but if you made 10 casts and caught 10 fish on those 10 casts, I would say that the indicator would go under about 3 of those times that a fish ate. It's unreal.
Like, I'm just not picturing that though. Like, Matt, like, wouldn't it be like there's just too much leader? Like, I'm just trying to figure, like, are the fish just like really like mouthing it really small? Like, I mean, I indicator fish for like chironomids, right? In a lake in still water often. And I mean, there's times where the indicator, it always moves, right? You can always see, even if it's a smallish little twitch. I mean, if a piece of grass hits it, I lift up. I mean, I'm hooked on the grass because I know it's either grass or a fish. There's nothing in between. So are you saying that a lot of guys are out there, they're missing 85% of the fish?
If you got the right flies on and you're fishing fishing over fish, I know the way that I set things up in my leader designs.
Yeah.
I just from the stuff that I've seen the last, let's say 8-9 years that I've been doing this trip, and fishing for these fish, that would be my guess.
Cool. We're definitely going to get
a lot of that depends.
Go ahead.
A lot of that, in my opinion, depends on, how well you're mending. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have drag. If your indicator is downriver from your flies, that movement is going to be there from your indicator. Your indicator is going to go under. But if those flies are directly underneath your indicator and somebody's making the perfect, flawless, drag-free drift, that indicator doesn't move.
Wow.
Right when the fish eats. Wow. It does not.
Wow. Crazy.
So maybe that's just my leader design and how I have people fish. But it's been, there's no right or wrong in this game, but been my things that I witness on a daily basis. It's incredible.
But dude, that's the difference between a good day and a great day. 85% more fish. Do you know what I mean? I mean, again, we're both not math scholars, but I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like if you, like you said, going on the theory, if you caught 10 fish in 10 casts and you landed 3, right? But you're missing the other, you're missing the other 7 or 8. I mean, like, Jesus, that's crazy. Those not like, yeah, like you'd want to at least go 50-50.
Right. Yeah. That would be
So
great.
many more guys. Go ahead. Yeah.
These fish, big fish, typically people think of big streamers, big articulated streamers, because big fish eat big food sources. And they do. And I actually have, a lot of people always ask me, well, how do these fish get so big? I mean, well, obviously it's a tailwater. So it's an incredible, biomass and food source of bugs drifting down the river. We also have a hell of a sculpin population. But if you throw streamers to these fish, they will freak out and not eat. Even though they might pluck a 12-inch rainbow off the end of your line that's flopping around on the surface. They will do that, but streamer game, non-existent down there. I'm not saying nobody's ever caught one on a streamer down there, because that's, but I've tried it all. I even have pictures of dead 37-inch brown that taped out at 37 inches when it was dead. So it was probably bigger. It's probably around 38, 39 inches when it was alive, but it literally choked to death on an 18-inch cutthroat.
Wow.
And I have pictures of that. And so they obviously eat these large food sources or other large fish.
Yeah.
And that's what really sustains them. But if you can drift a fly and hit them in the face with it to where they don't have to move, again, that's where the ladder comes in.
Yeah.
And I can see the drift. I can see the fish's reaction. And literally, if I can have somebody that is so dialed in with their cast, we can hit that fish in the face. I tell people all the time, I don't want to see the fish move even an inch to the left or to the right. I want to see their mouth open, and I'm going to tell you to set the hook. And these fish, they won't move, even to eat like a size 12, one of my Hellraiser leeches, they won't move 4 inches either way to eat that fly. But if you hit them right in the face, they'll eat it every time. Even a size 22 midge pattern in the winter, they're going to eat it. They're opportunistic. They're not going to pass up a food source if it hits them in the face, and all they got to do is open their mouth.
That's right.
So, and that's the other thing where the ladder is really useful for, is just really getting that drift dialed in perfectly. It's such an advantage, whether it's sunny, it's cloudy, maybe it's snowing, maybe it's raining. I can still see fish. Obviously optics, your sunglasses have a lot to do with it, lens colors, all that stuff. I usually carry, 6 different pairs of sunglasses with me every day, in my backpack. Costa does a hell of a job at, making just amazing lenses. And, so you got to be able to see these fish to really, really be consistent catching these fish. And that's where the ladder really shines for me.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. And I mean, if you're going to get on a big fish like that, I mean, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You're just guiding your client saying, okay, cast, let it drift. You know what I mean? Boom, boom, boom. It's a hook set.
Right.
So it's not like you're fishing from a ladder. I mean, yeah, and it's just been, it's gotten so much bad rap, and I'm sure people have taken it to that extreme of sight casting, fishing from a ladder. So I'm glad there's been a bit of clarity on that for sure. So, I do want
to,
Go Go ahead.
People have been using ladders for years, like out on Pyramid Lake.
It's exactly
That's mainly though, the main reason there is to really keep your back cast off the water. So people have been doing it for a long time, whether they're standing, maybe they're using more natural things like standing on a rock or whatnot, but, or a high bank. But yeah, maybe some people do consider it cheating. Whatever. I don't care.
I agree with you. Whatever. I'm a steelheader too, being a West Coast guy here. And when I go steelheading, there's so many times where I stand on a rock. Do you know what I mean? Or I'll walk out to a rock because it's safer, it's better. I get a better sight. I can, get a better drift. It's so many advantages, right? Now, is that considered cheating because I'm standing on a rock, 3/4 of the way into the river? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a ladder. That's, camouflage, but whatever. I'm catching fish. I'm letting them go, I'm having fun. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Matt, it sounds like you're successful with this, right? And I want to shift. You mentioned your leader setup, dude. If you're catching most of those fish, your leader setup's right. And I definitely want to make sure that those listeners that are missing those 85% of the fish know your leader setup, learn your leader setup, and use your leader setup. So from fly to reel, line on the reel, walk us through what you're doing, man.
Let's see here. So my whole setup, let's say starting, with the line, for that application, I hands down every time have got, the SA Amplitude Trout taper. This line is, its primary purpose, is for more of a presentation line. It's got a 70-foot head on it. It's not overlined. It's, extremely long head, super delicate laying out. I mean, it's a great dry fly line. Delicate, long front taper, long rear taper. But what I really like about this line, and yes, fish dry flies with it, but going for these big fish and targeting these fish, I like it because it is so delicate, even with a nymphing rig. I wouldn't be fishing this taper out of a boat. That would be a completely different line. I'd be using an MPX, SA MPX,
yep.
Or maybe an infinity taper. But for this application, for tailwater fishing, I believe it's hands down the best all-around line. I'm not chucking, super, super heavy weighted nymphing rigs with it. But, typical tailwater stuff with a moderate amount of weight. I can't say enough great things about it. You can roll cast this stuff a mile due to the 70-foot head. Your mending is impeccable. Your high sticking, you don't have this huge belly in your line now when you're high sticking, let's say, because you don't have a massive amount of weight at the outside of your rod tip, because all that weight is transferred throughout that entire 70 feet. So it's just a perfect all around tailwater line, in my opinion. So going from the SA trout taper, Amplitude trout taper, I start out there. My leader, this is where stuff starts getting complicated, is in this ranges. So in my opinion, I don't fish. I believe it's completely ridiculous to fish tapered leader when you're nymphing. It doesn't make any sense. Because a tapered leader, 3/4 of it is super thick, which
Mm-hmm.
is inefficient at cutting through the water column if you're trying to sink something. So I start out with anywhere from 6 to 20 feet of Scientific Anglers hard mono leader material in 40 pound.
Wow.
A giant perfection loop, about 2 inches, is connected to the fly line.
Mm-hmm.
From there, and that length of the butt section varies on times of year, water flows, water conditions. Say it's in December, that leader's 20 feet long. That butt section chunk, because these fish, my fish, if they see fly line, they're done. They don't necessarily spook; they just drift off to their happy place and go home. They know what that is, and so that's why that leader is typically, no shorter than 6 feet for this resource. From there, I use an indicator. It's called a Rainey's Tail Strike. It's a yarn indicator. I think Dave Whitlock invented it years ago. Rainey still sells them. We sell them in rigs here at the shop, but I don't see them in a ton of fly shops. But the reason why I use that is it has a tiny little metal ring on it. So, and that metal ring is key for this leader. So I've got a big 2-inch long perfection loop attached to my fly line. Then say I've got 6 feet of SA's 40 pound hard mono leader material. Then I build another perfection loop on the other end, which measures about 3/4 of an inch. And so I thread that indicator onto that perfection loop so that indicator is moving freely on that loop. Then from there, I have also on that same perfection loop that the indicator is on, one of Scientific Angler's new micro swivels.
Oh yeah.
Typically use the 40-pound one.
Yeah, those are good.
And so from there, and the great thing about that is that portion of line and that leader, that butt section, and the indicator and the swivel really never go bad. Mm-hmm. I can use that for a year, and as long as the indicator stays good, it's good.
Yeah.
And obviously that leader material is hard mono, which is going to float better because that's obviously not going below the surface of the water. So now attached to the swivel, I use SA's absolute fluorocarbon tippet, and I either use 4X or 5X. And I tie a bimini twist. Not many trout fishermen know what a bimini twist is, but it's a knot designed for big game fishing in the salt, mainly tarpon fishing. But what that knot does is it's a dynamic knot, meaning it moves, it stretches, it's a shock absorber. And that is loop to loop onto the swivel. From there, I run straight, either 4X or 5X fluorocarbon below that. Fluorocarbon's more dense. It sinks better. Mm-hmm. It's less visible because fluorocarbon absorbs light rather than reflects light. So it's slightly less visible, highly abrasion resistant. But from there, I run no more or no less than 5.5 feet of that tippet material is what's below my indicator. Always. It's right around that 5 foot mark. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but it's typically I keep it at about 5 feet all the time. From there, I have a SA 2mm tippet ring, and then I'll fish my flies, off of the tippet ring. Attach another foot of tippet off of that and rig my flies however I need to. Mm-hmm. For the situation. But that's my leader design. It's essentially a 90-degree rig with a lot of other bells and whistles on it. And how I adjust my depth is because the indicator is static and it can't be adjusted as far as the length of it. I've got a really good idea at my sink rates of the different size weights that I use. And that's how I adjust depth. So even though I have 5.5 feet of tippet below my indicator, even if that fish is in 3 feet of water, I know my sink rates of the weights. So I have it dialed to where I can have somebody cast, as opposed to say 20 feet above a fish with a tapered leader and getting my flies finally down to the fish. But the problem with casting so far upriver from a fish, so you have a lot of variables there, mainly current, and that current can pull your flies off target. Mm-hmm. But with this setup, I can have someone cast 5 feet above a fish, the flies are down and in the fish's face to where they're going to eat it and don't have to move. And the whole thing, the whole leader system is not going to spook the fish because there is nothing there that is out of the ordinary. If you're using, say a white indicator, everything else is clear. They're not seeing fly line. It's just completely stealthy. And it's the other huge success outside of the ladder. That leader design is accounted for. I've perfected it over the years, but it's one of the main reasons for success outside of the ladder. So
I love it, man.
It's very involved. It's a hard thing to do, or to necessarily build. Especially, it's not really, but the bimini twist that I use in there. Because if you have a 10, 12 pound fish throw a massive head shake on a size 22 midge in January, and you're fishing 6X, that bimini, because it is like acting as a shock absorber and kind of a spring, saves the butt of a ton of clients every year. It saves their ass. Even if they screw up a little bit, maybe it just
it's the difference between landing and losing, right? So
exactly,
and that's and that's what people want. So I know I'm gonna play around with that in my own still water and stuff like that applications. Just it's a knot I'm gonna learn and try it on our end for sure. Definitely. I mean, I know I've lost a few fish this year that I haven't necessarily wanted to lose. So, dude, you sound like you got it so dialed. You're like hunting, like you're definitely a trout hunter, and I love that. What else? What's next for you? Like, what's next for you that you see on the horizon or that you see coming up?
Oh boy. Well, after recovering from this whole COVID thing, I've got a few projects in the works. Can't really talk about them at this point, but
teaser.
Good. I know. I've hopefully here in the next little bit got a few more articles lined up for Fly Fisherman Magazine, and a couple more videos coming out here soon. So lots of good stuff. Just grinding it out. I'm just thankful to be working once again every day, just rocking it, and just I get the opportunity to fish with some amazing anglers, mm-hmm. and it's so fun to watch people and see people having success, and just that's what I live for. I mean, I don't care if I catch another one of these fish. I get off on more getting people into these fish. Every guide out there is a phenomenal angler, and they should be catching fish. But it's a different thing when you're getting clients into fish. Double digit fish all the time. That's a different thing. It's really cool to see. It's really cool to be a part of a moment like that for someone, and that's what I truly keeps me going every day, even if, you're just rocking it every day. That's what keeps me going. It's cost me a lot in life, but that drive to be out on the water every day and working as much as I do, but it's worth it. It's what I do. It's what I love. So yeah, can't thank all the amazing people I get to fish with all the time. They're amazing. So
Awesome.
They make me look good.
Yeah. So it's always good when someone makes you look good. So no, I love it. And you know what? We want to make you look good. So where could someone, if they want to catch one of these monsters, learn more about it, reach out to you, figure out your leader system again personally, where could they reach out to you at, find you at, ask you questions and all that fun stuff?
Okay. So, you can hit me up on Instagram, Matt Mccannel, Fly Fishing. You can go to my website, mattmccannelflyfishing.com. And then, you can book trips through my website, and or you can also contact Riggs Fly Shop here in Ridgeway. Their website is fishriggs.com. But if you got any questions, shoot me an email through or a message through my website. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me outside of Instagram. And yeah, it's if anybody out there has any questions, feel free, hit me up, and be happy to answer them. This time of year, I apologize. I'm down in the Gunnison Gorge on 3-day trips about once a week this time of year. So if I don't respond right away, it's not because I'm getting lazy or ignoring you. I'm just don't have any form of communication. So that's the best way, though.
I'm sure they won't take it personal. Matt, I definitely want to thank you, man. Thanks for sharing everything. You got my heart racing right now thinking about this big trout. So definitely want to thank you again for that. And listeners, I want to thank you guys as well. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Guided Podcast, sponsored by Scientific Anglers. If you like this podcast episode, please let us know and leave a review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And remember, subscribe to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast to get even more episodes of both Guided and the Fly Fishing Insider each week. See more at flyfishinginsiderpodcast.com.